Greetings, this is Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn. My name is John Savers. I'm your host, and today we'll take a look at a film which came out not so long ago called The Strangers. A caveat, now we are doing this particular film much after the fashion of the impoverished who have a way of eating the same meal every night. We are now preparing to make a movie review of a movie we may have already reviewed. But at any rate, for those of you who have supped enough on this, time to walk. At any rate, we will proceed with this particular one. Now, it's directed by Bryan Bertino, and it stars Scott Speedman as Hoyt, and Liv Tyler as Kristen. We have Glenn Howerton as Mike. Gemma Ward is the doll-faced girl. Laura Margolis as the pinup girl. And we have Mr. Weeks playing the man with the bag over his head. This particular film is one which is unusual. It's unusual because it really doesn't hold an overall surprise. You get from the very prologue to this film a pretty exact understanding of what's going to happen. There is a kind of a documentary-like discussion of crime in America, a general discussion of violence and of murder. And this leads to a comment about a particular couple who had this befall them, Hoyt and Kristen. And this kind of documentary with a Morgan Freeman-esque voice kind of leads in, it's sort of grainy and whatnot, it kind of leads into a little piece in which there are shots of the inside of the house with the blood and so forth. We hear a woman screaming on the phone, 911, excitedly, there's blood everywhere and so forth. And this is the lead-in to this film, and this is also an announcement of what's going to happen. So why do a lot of moviegoers not just split at this point in time, saying, well, I know what it's about, let's go see something we don't know what it's about? Well, I can't say, but I think that those who saw this to the end got their money's worth. It is a film which then proceeds in a very pedestrian, tedious way, even boring. It's kind of a shocking juxtaposition to have all this preliminary discussion of horror and then to turn into a kind of a rustic, pedestrian kind of milieu. We do see this couple played by the Speedman-Tyler duo, Hoyt and Kristen at this kind of a Rambler-type house. It is in a rustic area, but not totally isolated. It is kind of a darkened house when they arrive in their vehicle. They seemed a little subdued. We don't know why. There's no real reason that they should be clicking their heels and jumping about, so it's not disturbing. They go and enter, and as they enter, we see red rose petals everywhere, in many places at least. Someone has made a lot of effort here to do this, and it is not long before we realize that Hoyt must have had a very serious romantic concept toward idea or inclination toward Kristen. This was going to be like a pre-honeymoon night, I guess. We learned from an earlier film cut, a flashback type of mode, how she had been at a restaurant and with some others, and merry and having the best of time, happy, smiling kind of person, looking pretty. Hoyt shows up. He's looking fine. He's a fine-looking fellow. He goes over. He's in a good mood. They see each other and then greet each other in a very good mood, and everything's going hunky-dory. He kind of drags her out onto the balcony, dancing, and then he brings out a little blue box with a ring in it. And this seems to change everything because Kristen is not ready for this. The timing was not right. And of course, they say timing is everything. So, gee, Hoyt blew it, it looks like. Anyway, his ego is wounded. It's a real dashing with cold water. The whole night's mood has changed. He feels rejected. He's taking it like a man. She does not know what to do. She does know that it's not the right time for her. She's trying to be kind, and she is now uncertain about what attitude to take. And this whole awkwardness between these two becomes entirely French, with pregnant pauses and all the sort of gestures and looks that make you think this is a French film. All right there. Finally, she takes a shower. She goes upstairs. He is trying to be gallant in his way, offering, would you like this? Could I get you that? And so forth. Usually not in an engaging, enthusiastic sort of way, but in a detached, partially bummed out kind of way. She is also detached and cool and awkward and tentative and declining what gestures he offers generally. She does take a shower in the bathroom, the bathtub. She goes to take a bath, and the tub itself is filled with these red petals. Well, of course, anyone who has seen these kinds of movies knows immediately that although the red petals may have an intended romantic point, they necessarily have a prefigurement of blood. And so it is. We see her taking a bath, and she is subdued again. She gets out, and she gets downstairs, and there's maybe some effort to play some music or something, and then maybe a vetoing it. While she's away, he has called his friend Mike and said, pick me up first thing in the morning and stuff like that. I think he's rented a vehicle. At any rate, the couples kind of sit there in the what might be called a den area, and she says, I'm out of cigarettes or something like that. Now there is a knocking on the door. She goes over and says more or less, who is it? And a female voice outside says, is Tamara there? Well, neither the knocking nor the voice are such as to, within context, inspire a lot of confidence. And it has a kind of a non sequitur quality to it. She says, no, there's no Tamara here. And apparently the woman goes off who had voiced the question. She again, having no cigarettes, he says something like he would go, but there's a shop not too far away. Besides, he would like to think things over. So it's really not all that normal in these contexts, actually, for the man to be saying something like this. I want to be by myself to think things over. It's usually the woman, but he uses that to leave. They're not comfortable together. So he does go, and when he does, strange events begin to manifest themselves sufficiently. There are fractional images, strange images, sounds coming about, sounds which may be altogether pedestrian in a normal sense, take on an ultra quality in a heart that is becoming frightened, a mind that is being seized by fear. She is in a place she is not familiar with, in a situation which is undesirable, it's awkward, and this is in a kind of a rustic area. She's not exactly a fish out of water, but this is not something that inspires confidence at all. She ends up getting a butcher knife, big knife, and she is kind of floating about who's there, who is it, and stuff like this. And again, there may be some fractional image of either the pinup girl or the doll-faced girl. And when I say pinup girl, I'm talking about she's wearing a mask that suggests that. The doll-faced girl is wearing a mask that suggests a doll. And the man with the bag over his head speaks for itself. Kind of a toe sack with holes that have been cut into it. Also, this allows him to have a labored breathing, which is also a bit spooky and acts as a signature of his presence. Now, neither the doll-faced girl nor the pinup girl do much in the way of talking. These people, this particular script, which was written by Bertino, is one that is not liberal when it comes to the strangers. They have little to say. But what is their images being odd and unnatural in the context inspire in others lots of thoughts. And they don't have to say anything to engender in the others lots of thoughts. This thing progresses. We do have the Hoyt coming back with the cigarettes. He doesn't see anything amiss. When he gets back to the house, he is informed by Kristen that there's some strange goings on. She's frightened. He says, I didn't see anything. You're just thinking of dreaming this up. It's just a mood or something. But when he goes back to his car on a pretext or other, he finds his windshield has been broken, busted, blasted. This is a wake-up call. He now understands that Kristen may not have been just imagining things, and indeed she hadn't. He gets back into the house. The woman makes a second appearance, the one who is seeking Tamara. This time, Hoyt goes to the door. The front light is not working, apparently. It's very shaded. We see the female figure, definitely a female, but the features are obscured. They discuss the Tamara business a bit briefly, and then she goes off, and Hoyt kind of looks about. It's unusual not to have the light on. He doesn't understand that. He goes and checks it and discovers that it's loose, and he tightens it up, and the light goes back on. Everybody knows that that was monkeyed with. It was not an accident at all, of course not. So we do add this as part of the collection of ominous events, which is sort of steering these two to their ultimate disaster. In fact, when I saw this film, I thought about that old sardonic, waggish comment, life's a bitch, then you die. That seems to be the story here. At any rate, in regard to Hoyt and Kristen, they are now getting close to a barricade situation as the two gals and the guy make a little appearances in brief, fractional passing, or standing erect out in the yard as if they were trees, being unnatural in this whole process. Because Bertino has done something which is unusual for these spooky films, and that is he has made the yard well lit. It's very easy to see who is out there. And this allows for this spookiness in regard to either the doll-faced girl or the pinup girl standing erectly out, staring at the house, staring at them. What do these people want? Well, Kristen and Hoyt are not sure, but they have reason to think this is not normal. Also, these people are seen and heard. There are all kinds of noises that are effectively used to engender a growing fear in Hoyt and Kristen, a sense of being besieged, of something entirely unnormal. They can't communicate with the sheriff or anything like that. The telephone line has been monkeyed with. The cell phone doesn't seem to be working or has been molested also. They are now isolated. They have these strangers. They have this situation which is just abnormal. They kind of back off. Hoyt recalls his father had a shotgun. He finds the shotgun and gets some ammo. He and Kristen kind of barricade themselves in a room. Best friend Mike, who is supposed to pick Hoyt up first thing in the morning, decides to come early. He gets there. He notices that things look pretty much regular. He goes past. He does see the broken windshield. That's curious. He continues on. He's not fearful at all. He goes into the house. And while he's doing this thing, I believe that they're flashing little images or fractional images of the strangers. Bertino sort of likes to have them shadow his protagonist. At any rate, we have Mike go into the room, go into the house and toward the room at which Hoyt and Kristen are barricaded. He turns around the door and ba-boom, they blast him. And so that's a terrible thing for Hoyt. He just shot his best friend Mike with a double-barrel shotgun. Not good. He goes out. He's kind of hurting his heart about that a little bit also. Kristen trying to comfort him a little bit. They're also a little bit fearful of their situation. They decide to kind of run out and get into Mike's car, make a getaway. But as they do that and get into it and so forth, they're rammed very hard by a Ford truck, a large one in the rear. They get out and they run back into the house. They get makeshift improvised weapons. They are trying to figure out what to do. There are some thoughts about there's something in the kind of a guest house in the rear, a garage guest house type thing. We see them going out into the yards and being tailed or shadowed by these people and sometimes chased. And it just kind of calls to mind the incident of Charles Manson's family at the Tate house. And we get a kind of a sense of what that might have been like in this film. But at any rate, we do have a knife showdown, as it were, between Dollface Girl and Kristen, a doll-faced girl, has gotten the big butcher knife that Kristen had earlier gotten out, and now Kristen has no choice but to get a paring knife, and we have what we call an inequality of weaponry here. And it's at this point in time that the doll-faced girl says to Kristen, "You know you're going to die." Well, this does not inspire confidence in anyone, and it's a maddening thing for someone to say to you. But at any rate, there they are, knife to knife, as it were. Well, I think that Hoyt kind of rescues the situation, and the doll-faced girl scampers away or something. But at any rate, after this scurrying about, chasing about this house and so forth, eventually the strangers do nab Kristen and Hoyt. They secure them each to a chair, which are put side by side. By this time, Hoyt and Kristen have rebonded, and their feelings toward each other are very strong indeed. But unfortunately, it's too late, and they're in harm's way. There is a cut from this. We do see a partial attack of this and the carnage and so forth, but without dwelling on that, we'll go to our epilogue. We see in this a couple of lads on bicycles. They're not driving, they're actually kind of pushing it because they have kind of an upgrade they're going on. They are looking rather ordinary, I would say something like 12 to 14 years old, something of that sort. We see a Ford truck, which we instantly realize is the truck, and there are 3 people in it, and there's no reason to be surprised that it's the strangers. The truck suddenly stops, and the Margolis character gets out. As she goes over to the lads, and again, we don't see her real face. And she asks one of the lads if he'll give her one of their tracts because they are sort of proselytizing for Mormonism. And the lad says, "Are you a sinner?" And she gives a nice reply, and he gives her one. And they get back in the truck, she does, and off they go. And I believe doll-faced girl, or perhaps pinup girl, says it'll be easier next time. So we see immediately the possibility of a new series like Jason or Halloween. But at any rate, the lads keep on going. They go to the house that Hoyt's father owned. They go to the door. It's probably a little ajar, so they go in and they see the carnage and the horror and so forth. And they get close to Kristen, and she appears to still have some life in her. We see her kind of start. So at any rate, this kind of dissolves into that prologue situation where we hear the hysterical woman screaming in 911, "We need help, there's blood everywhere," and so forth. So the film kind of ends this way. It ends with a death that we would normally not care to see, with these religious lads and with the villains. And the villains are going off, and we have every reason to believe they're going to continue what they are doing, but we have no reason to know why they're doing it. And that's part of the horror of it. Whoa, that's it, folks. A wrap. We're out of time again. This is Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. I appreciate your joining me this evening. Hope to see you again at our next Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn.